Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post for Parshas Balak is going to look at dialectical thinking. Dialectical thinking is when a person is able to hold two contrasting or two different extremes at the same time, two different views which are polar opposites, and to hold them at the same time in a cognitive sense and also in an emotional sense, to understand and accept and to internalize how these two contrasting extremes can exist at the same time. This can be looked at in contrast to dichotomous thinking. Dichotomous thinking is when a person views the world, views himself and the world around them in a black and white way, in an all or nothing, that their life and reality can only be this or this, and it's an inability to be able to hold and understand and to appreciate that two contrasting realities or two extremes can exist at the same time. And this distinction between dialectical thinking and dichotomous thinking really does relate to a person's ability to function in a healthy way. Because if a person functions and views things in an all or nothing way, then it puts them in a position where they are setting themselves up to certain standards, or they're setting themselves up into a certain way of living that can be very depressing and can also be very confusing, and is also setting themselves up for failure. That they have to achieve certain things. It's either true or false, or it's success or failure, and the world just fits itself into these two categories, and it can be very difficult to live in that way. But dialectical thinking, if a person is encouraged to take on a more flexible view, a broader way of viewing their life, to understand that you can hold two different extremes at the same time. Things can be good and bad at the same time. You can succeed and fail in a sense at the same time, that you can put in effort and you can grow and you can try to work hard, but there can be pitfalls and there can be struggles and challenges along the way. You can be happy and sad. That if a person is able to hold two opposing things at the same time, to be able to view their world and their life in a dialectical way, it is a healthier way of viewing their life. It is a healthier cognitive process, and it encourages a broader and more flexible emotional world that they live in. If we look at this week's parsha, we read about the story of Bilam, and we know that when we learn about Moshe Rabbeinu, when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, that they said there would never be a Navi like Moshe Rabbeinu. But Chazal tell us that there was another Navi in the other nations, and this was Bilam. And we see that Moshe Rabbeinu and Bilam are two contrasting characters. The purity and the spirituality and the holiness of Moshe Rabbeinu is in stark contrast to to Bilam, who used his powers and was a corrupt character. However, what joins them, the common denominator between them, is that they were both powerful people with the ability for nevuah as well. And what was set up in the world was a sense of balance. Rev Yaakov Kamenetsky explains that the reason why there was these characters of Moshe Rabbeinu and Bilam, and that although they seem to be opposite and contrasting to each other, they are both needed in order for there to be a sense of balance. That is how the world works, that there is this dialectical reality in the world, this dialectical sense that there is a balance of two opposing things, that they exist concurrently. And if there is the power of good in Moshe Rabbeinu, then there also needs to be the power of bad in a sense, and for the other nations, which is expressed through Bilam. And this is how we're able to make sense of our life, and that can bring order into our world and balance. That there isn't just two extremes. There's only good, Moshe Rabbeinu, or only bad, Bilam. They have to exist together. Although they are two extremes, they exist concurrently. And this is the dialectical reality of our life. And although the Rambam suggests that there is no such thing as magic or sorcery, and that any of the stories about magic and sorcery are false, the Gra explains that there was criticism and an argument against the Rambam in this view. But Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky explains and tries to reconcile these opposing views of the Rambam and the Gra, and says that yes, there is magic and sorcery, but it's only in a time when there is a high level of kedusha. As we said, there is a balance of kedusha and tumah, of holiness and unholiness. And therefore, when there's a high level of kedusha, then there needs to be a balance, and therefore magic and sorcery will also exist. But when there is a deterioration in the level of holiness in the world, then sorcery and magic will no longer exist, because there always needs to be this balance. This dialectical reality always needs to be in existence. And this is what we can take out from this week's parasha, is the presence and the character of Bilam. Although he was a negative person, he was an evil person, and he used his powers in an attempt to destroy the Bnei Israel. What we take out from this is the overriding message is this existence, this coexistence of the power of good in Moshe Rabbeinu as a Navi, and the power of bad and the Nevuah of Bilam. But this is the balance that there is in the world, this dialectical reality of the world, which is a healthy way of viewing the world, and it's a healthy way in order for us to internalize this message, to be able to live and view our lives, and to have an emotional balance as well. Have a great showers and keep well.